G'day legends, we're going to check out 4 different ANALOGMAN fuzz pedals today. Big shout out to my buddy Murray for letting me borrow these fuzz pedals. Fuzz is a strange thing. It's kind of, in some ways, the most straightforward effect in the guitar player's arsenal. It's also one of maybe the hardest to get to work in your rig and sometimes the most misunderstood. So we've got the Peppermint Fuzz, the Astro Tone, the Sun Bender, and the mythical Sun Lion. If you're at all familiar with ANALOGMAN, you kind of know what's coming next. I'm pretty unfamiliar with each of these pedals, so I'm really looking forward to just diving in and having some fun and pulling some tones. Would highly recommend going and checking out the ANALOGMAN website if you want to learn more about them. And, you know, Analog Mike's just a certified legend in the guitar community as well. So let's plug them in and make some filthy sounds. Let's get started with the Astro Tone. I'm playing a 1977 Bender Strat. It's got Michael Landau signature pickups by Sir Guitars. I'm going into the Synergy 800 module, a Synergy 5050 power amp, the Fractal X-Load, and then one of my own IRs. Let's have a listen to the starting point, and I'll bring the Astro Tone in. The Astro Tone to me sounds pretty rock and roll. It's nice and thick sounding without being overly harsh or tubby. The volume control on a Strat, when you clean it up, is glorious. You get that bright, glossy kind of sheen on your tone. You can just really work the dynamics from your volume control. Next, the Peppermint Fuzz. So this is like a modified fuzz face style design. Let's just hear the clean sound again, and we'll noodle. My experience with the Peppermint Fuzz, in terms of the guitars that I preferred it with, was the opposite way around from the Astro Tone. Love the Astro Tone with the Strat. To me, it just kind of reinforced what I like about Strats, that kind of bright, jangly thing. Whereas the Peppermint Fuzz reinforced what I like about Les Pauls, where it just really sounded gigantic and thick on top of there. I thought it sounded good with the Strat. You could hear that kind of, as you would expect with that solo circuit, doesn't quite clean up in the same way as the Astro Tone, but cleaning it up a little bit just kind of takes out the absolute smear that you get over all the notes. Pretty interesting there. To me, that was like that Leslie West vibe, basically. You play some power chords, you play some big unison bends or dyads and things like that, and it just makes me want to play that kind of mountain style 70s groove rock. It's like got this wonderful sludge all around it. Next, the Sunbender. Neck pickup of the Strat again. have to admit, when I think of boutique fuzz pedals, I pretty much think of the Sunbender, and it is the most unforgiving, rawest, but also kind of most satisfying to play out of that, because I kind of feel like you have to work the guitar a little bit harder to find that sweet spot on there. Basically, the holy grail, though, is the Sunline. So it is basically the last pedal we heard, the Sunbender, with the Beano boost built in there. What I really like as well is this knob here. When you kind of click it in there, it turns the pedal off, so you can leave it connected on your pedal board with a battery. When you actually want to turn it on, you can do that. There's a three-way switch on the boost side of it. So, you know, we kind of just heard the fuzz, but all of these pedals are super sensitive to environmental conditions. So even with the same settings, this kind of Sunbender side doesn't really sound like the standalone Sunbender. Actually pretty impressed at how different each of these pedals are, even though, you know, there's significant overlap between some of them. We heard with the Sun Bender and the Sun Lion on the kind of Bender side that, you know, they definitely don't sound identical. When you have pedals or any part of a signal chain which has pretty simple components, the net effect that a slight change in tolerance can have on the overall outcome is obviously going to be quite pronounced. I would say if you just want the kind of Bender fuzz thing, then the Sun Bender is probably the way to go. The Sun Lion is super cool that you've got that sort of circuit in there. You've got the Beano boost. Of course, there are the entire universe of different component choices that you can have on there, which makes these more or less desirable to certain people. I don't think I'd call myself a fuzz aficionado, but you know, the addition of the boost on here is pretty cool. But this pedal was also way more temperamental, like day to day, plugging it in. Some days I plugged it in and went, this is incredible, I need to do a video with it. And by the time I'd set everything up, it sounded different. And you know, these pedals are kind of renowned for that. Whereas I found this one, whatever's going on in it, was just maybe a little bit more consistent. Then we had the first two that we heard, the Astro Tone and the Peppermint Fuzz. You know, if I was mainly a Strat player, I would go with one of these. If I was mainly a Les Paul player, I would go with one of these. This thing, to me, is like a little more kind of punk rock, 70s, you know, it's it's like I said, just kind of greasy and grimy, whereas this one is better for that thing that can do the really smooth, thick fuzz with a Strat. You can clean it right up. I'm actually pretty surprised that I think the Astro Tone, the first one that I tried, was my favorite. Maybe that's just bias as well because I plugged it in first for this particular video, but I think it's just a really sweet all-rounder for something that isn't going to get too crazy. This would be the way I would go. If I wanted something really gnarly and disgusting, I would go with the Peppermint. And then, you know, the Sun Bender does the Sun Bender thing on there. You know, honestly, this is really, really cool. And they're really, really expensive. I understand that, and really, really desirable. But I didn't really hear anything on this that made me go, I need to have one of these, especially having spent time with it being so kind of, you know, finicky. And I guess that's part of the fun with fuzz pedals. You know, they are the opposite of a digital pedal where, you know, I plug in my Axe Effects or my FM3 and I know it's going to be consistent. I know the only thing that is changing if I hear something different is me. Like I haven't had enough water that day, or I had a particularly good coffee, or I'm thinking about other things. With these, there's little gremlins in there, you know, the temperature, I think just the overall vibe, the length of the cable that you plug in, all these things contribute to what they bring. Whether you feel that that is a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's probably largely an aesthetic choice. Like this sounding inconsistent, some people are going to love because it makes it like a kind of wild ride. You never know what you're going to get. I think if you were going for a particular consistent fuzz sound every night, this is not for you. This is for people who really appreciate the overall tonal aesthetic of what this does and the fact that you get something slightly different every single time. You know, I would say this is like, using a lever press espresso machine with some really light roasted coffee beans and trying to get the same result every single time. This is, I don't know, like a Brown's Mocha Chill. You just smash it and you feel okay. This is probably, you know, you just easy pour over with your medium roast. And then this is going to be that weird, really acidic, floral kind of coffee that some people have, you know, like me, with those kind of things. They have it and they go, this is amazing. And other people are going to go, why are you drinking that sour crap? Give me some real stuff. So anyway, that's my overview of these particular pedals. Big thank you to Murray for letting me borrow all of these, as well as a bunch of other pedals that you've heard on the channel. Send him some love in the comments section below. Go and check out the ANALOGMAN website. And let me know your thoughts on these fuzzers. Did they all just sound the same to you, or did one really stand out in the mix? I would love to hear from all of you. If you've got some ANALOGMAN stuff, let me know how you like it as well. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.